for the Weekly Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest have undertaken an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and film festivals and directors and all this other stuff that I really know nothing about because they made this really long list of things that they want to talk about and I can't even read through all of them, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your daily dose of all things movies, TV, books, and anything else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, editor-in-chief of dailyplanetfilms.com, and I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-editor, Matt Freeman. Matt, may the force be with you.
And may the force be with you, Scott.
Thank you, sir. What are we here to talk about?
We are here to talk about Tangled.
Tangled?
I mean, and we're here to talk about Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah, that's because there's this little movie coming out on Friday. Probably most people don't even know about it. It's called Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I haven't heard of that.
No, yeah. But we just figured we would take some time to talk about Star Wars, and to join us on this epic quest is our old friend and frequent podcast guest, James Gentry. James, how are you doing?
Doing all right, everyone. Good to be back, guys.
You don't really like Star Wars, do you, James?
No, I'm still trying to figure out what this Force thing is. Is it like Harry Potter? Is it like, do they get wands? No, I'm just kidding.
Basically like Harry Potter.
They do get wands. They have different colors on them and everything. It's very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
No,
the red wands are the bad ones.
Obviously, yeah, Star Wars is coming out. It's huge. You can't go anywhere without seeing Star Wars everywhere. I think that if you went to money.cnn.com today, it's like, I think that the line was "The Fed Awakens," and it's a picture of people from the Fed in like Star Wars type of like it's taken over the entire culture. It's
wow,
insane. So we can't not talk about it. None of us have seen the movie because it's not out yet, but we're going to talk about the originals. So
yeah,
I think it's going to be good. But
I love the originals.
Yeah. Before we get into that, though, instead of doing news and recommendations this year, I just wanted to do a quick game I'm calling In or Out, which I shamelessly stole from another podcast, but that's okay because they probably don't listen to us. Basically, there have been a ton of trailers that have dropped in the past couple weeks, and I just wanted to real quick go around, ask each of you if you're in or out, and maybe a little reason why, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the first trailer we're going to do is Captain America Civil War. That, I think, dropped a couple weeks ago. So, Gentry, in or out?
In. 100% in. 110% in. I think it's my favorite trailer that I've seen probably out of this whole group. Maybe it's just because of the music, but yeah, I'm in.
Sweet. Matt?
In. Probably 80%, just because mixed feelings about the last Avengers movie, but I'm overall happy with the direction they're going and seems like it'll be good. Yeah,
I am definitely in on this one. I like that line at the end of the trailer, the sorry Tony, he's my friend, and the
yep.
So was I. I think that's like perfect. And that's, I think the one thing the Marvel Cinematic Universe did really well, I thought, even though I agree with your mixed feelings on Age of Ultron, I think that relationship between Tony and Captain America was set up pretty well, and I think it's going to be cool to see what exactly, like, the events that happen to drive them apart and where that's going to leave them. So, definitely in.
Yeah.
All right. Gentry. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
I'm about 20% in, so I'm out.
So that's out. That's not... This one not doing it for you?
Nope. No, and yeah, I mean, like we've talked about a couple of times, it's, I don't know what it is. It's something. It's like it irks me. It's something that's. I know it's like silly. It's supposed to be silly, but it's like an annoying type of silly for me.
That's
I don't know. I think fair. I have to be inebriated to enjoy any parts of those movies heavily. But after that, then Michael Bay films become a lot more enjoyable. So.
That's true.
So no, I'm out. I probably won't see it.
Matt?
In.
Ooh.
I'm probably I'm a huge Ninja Turtles kid. Was sort of raised on Ninja Turtles. I didn't actually see the previous reboot
That's okay.
Ninja Turtles movie, which
Don't do it.
yeah, but this one looks like a lot more fun than that one. Like that one looked kind of dark and just not correct, and this one looks like it's really striving for those, like the tone and the aesthetic of the cartoon. And like I just had a huge grin on my face for the whole trailer because they've got the van that shoots the manhole covers and they got Bebop and Rocksteady, which have never been in a movie, and these are things that I care deeply about. So
Matt, there's going to be a live action Krang in this movie.
I'm so excited.
In 1,000.
Maybe that'll reel me in, but probably not. I don't know.
All right, Matt.
I did enjoy him as a kid. It's just, yeah, I just can't take. And it's just Michael Bay just continues to upset me every movie he makes.
That's fine. That's fine. Mm-hmm. You haven't read the 500-page Transformers
No, I haven't.
essay.
Yeah, you can go read that. Then you'll understand.
Then you'll understand.
I haven't been pulled to the Michael Bay dark side yet by that wonderful piece. But yeah, I'll get to that at some point.
Once you start it, you won't be able to stop. So make sure you clear your calendar.
Probably true. I'm going to be fascinated as soon as I realize what I'm reading. And yeah.
Matt, X-Men Apocalypse, the newest X-Men, in or out?
Definitely in, because I've really enjoyed the new X-Men movies, and I also, while we're talking about cartoons that I loved as a child, I distinctly remember the Apocalypse storyline of the cartoon being awesome when I was 7, and thus I can assume that the Apocalypse storyline in this movie is going to be awesome, using logic.
There you go, logic. Gentry.
I'm in. I'm definitely in. Been a big fan so far of the, McAvoy and Fassbender duo combo. I just like where the two movies previous have gone, kind of with the story. And, I was kind of scared when they started to mix in some of the older actors from, Bryan Singer's first 2 films, which I thought were good. I was worried it wasn't going to work, but so far it's worked, and I've actually enjoyed them a lot. I'm a big Marvel fan, obviously, definitely a big X-Men fan. It was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid as well. And, the Apocalypse story. He's just always been one of the scary, scarier bad guys, I feel like, in the whole Marvel universe, in my opinion. And that we get to see him now and bring a little mythology into it with the his 4 horsemen and the Egyptians and stuff like that. It'll be interesting. So I'm in.
I am out. Yeah.
Wow, surprising.
I don't like Bryan Singer's X-Men. I think X-Men 1 and X-Men 2, and everyone hates the third one, but I think even the first 2 have aged pretty terribly. I did really like First Class. I didn't really like Days of Future Past, whatever. Very much, and this seems like it's Bryan Singer going back. To me, it looks very much like his first movie, and I mean, I can't unsee Apocalypse looking like Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie, and that I can't stop seeing that.
No.
And now you will not be able to unsee it. So there you go.
Horrible. Great comparison.
I can't believe that's Oscar Isaac. It's crazy to me.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Apocalypse?
Yep.
Oh, man. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to end up seeing this movie, but I'm not excited about it.
We'll have to talk X-Men at some point, I feel like.
Yeah, sure. Gentry, the newest Star Trek trailer dropped the other day. Star Trek Beyond. In or out?
I'm in. I'll probably see it. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't really know how I feel about the second one. I only saw it once, to be honest. So, I'm always curious. I can't really call myself like a Star Trek fan. I'm just kind of like the buddy, the acquaintance, just kind of getting familiar with the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know. Just like the rest of them, it looks like it could be a fun thrill ride. I'm kind of a fan of that cast and stuff. So yeah, I'll probably see it. I'm in.
Matt?
Not to sound like a broken record, but I'm in. I liked the first of the new Star Treks. The second one made some terrible, terrible script mistakes. But I think it seems like this movie is going back to its roots and going with the formula that I really expect to work. So it's taking all the elements that made the first movie great and going into it with a good concept. So I anticipate that it'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree with both you. I'm in on this. Fun fact, the director and writer of this movie are pretending like Star Trek Into Darkness did not exist.
Excellent.
Because basically that movie wrote itself
Looks
into
like
a
it.
corner where it completely broke the world. Because now you were able to... They made in that movie possibility to teleport to anywhere in the universe, so you don't need starships anymore. And they
Right.
made magical blood that heals all maladies and makes people live forever, ever. So
Right.
they completely broke the world in that movie. So they're just going to pretend like that didn't happen. So that has me excited. This trailer, I think, looks great. There's a lot of people out there complaining about how it doesn't look like Star Trek. There's too much action. I think they're wrong, and I think they don't remember what the original series was like. And I think they don't realize that this is a 90-second teaser that has
Yeah.
to push... It's going to push as much of the action as it can because it's trying to get people that don't like Star Trek to come see the movie. So,
Right.
I'm
Kind of
in.
somehow.
And it was co-authored by Simon Pegg, and he's awesome. So
Yes.
definitely in.
Yeah.
Matt, 20 years later, we're getting a sequel to Independence Day. Are you in on Independence Day resurgence?
I'm gonna give I'm gonna hold out for more information because I think this is a fun concept. Like even ever since the first movie came out, I was thinking like, oh yeah, I mean, in fact, I think they made a video game decades ago about what would happen if the aliens came back, and obviously it's going to be a totally different story. But I've always thought that was a cool concept. But I can't say that I think they're going to execute it very well. So I'm going to hold out.
That's fair. Abstain.
Yeah.
Gentry.
Yeah, I'm definitely in. Only in the fact that I guess some of my closest friends, that I've kind of grown up with the last 10 years, like we've made fun of that movie so much, and loved it at the same time, so much that it's I would not. I'd probably be stoned in the streets if I didn't go see it with one of my buddies who's like already talking to me about it, because it's just so ridiculous. But it's fun, It's the first one was a great time. I remember. I'm pretty sure I saw it 3 times in theaters. Yeah, it's a long time ago, but yeah, I'm in. It's kind of don't really know what to expect. There wasn't a whole lot, I guess, in terms of like character. Can really tell like who's who. There was just kind of a lot of different images of all these people that I've never seen, except for Jeff Goldblum and his father and Bill Pullman, who has a beard, I guess.
Yeah, bearded Bill Pullman.
Yeah, bearded Pullman. But yeah, I'll probably be seeing this, and I'll definitely be drinking for it. Should be fun.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm kind of. I want to side with Matt and say I want to wait and see, but I think the honest truth is I'd be out on an Independence Day sequel, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
I think from the looks of this is about the best way they could do it. I think crazy ex-president bearded Bill Pullman looks amazing. I think Jeff Goldblum's character being like the guy who took their alien technology and basically made every modern invention we have with it. That's a pretty cool concept. It looks like a mess of a blockbuster that's gonna be huge.
It could very well be a
big
mess.
and throw lots of stuff in the frame and badly shoot action and all the terrible stuff that I hate in modern blockbusters.
Yeah. And
I'm
they're
going to
not
go ahead and... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say they're not going to accidentally discover another Will Smith like they did for the first one.
Actually, it's actually really, really funny. Apparently, they wrote 2 scripts. One if Will Smith said yes, and one if he said no. So they had 2 completed scripts, and he said no, so they just threw that script out and had the other one.
Yeah. Doesn't he? I heard like the rumor is he like crashes in like a test flight or something because they're like integrating the alien
Oh,
technology.
so they just kill him off. Wow.
That's what I
It's
heard.
cold-blooded.
Yeah. I can't
I mean,
confirm that.
I mean, like I think this is better because Will Smith distorts every movie he's in now into a Will Smith movie.
Yeah.
So
Pretty much, yeah.
And if you know, yeah, he doesn't need to be in this.
Yeah.
Quick. What you said you saw us 3 times in the theater. What is Will Smith's character's name? Go.
Hillard. No, Miller. Captain James Miller. Fuck.
Thank you
What
for
is it?
proving my point. That
Damn it.
No one knows anyone's name in this movie.
No one
it's just
knows.
Will
Doesn't matter.
Smith. It's just Will Smith.
I was like,
But also no one's name matters in this movie
Yeah,
because they're all
that's
just
true.
archetypes.
That's very
yeah,
true.
exactly. This is Roland Emmerich, right? Again.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let us not forget that a good majority of his movies are complete messes. So
Yeah,
It
I
could
need
be-
to send you that movie Bob thing that made me like Independence Day 1. It's like a 30-minute video that kind of made me like the movie. Which
Hey,
is
yeah,
upsetting
I
me.
mean, like, look, Independence Day. Like, I didn't look the movies I actually like of his. Like, I actually do truly like is Stargate. That's pretty much it.
I thought you were gonna
I mean,
say. I thought you were gonna say 2012.
Yeah, no. Like everything else is like has like moments. Very, not, and I don't even say moments. I don't know. He's so cheesy. He's just so cheesy, and it's just way over the top, epic. Like he really took the epic and like jacked it up even more. I don't even know if that's possible to do. The thing about this trailer, it reminds me of that terrible movie Battleship. When like
No, I
it's
like that
like
movie.
you like Battleship, okay?
Okay, write that down. Podcast. Matt explaining why he likes Battleship.
The Battleship fight, the Battle of Battleship.
I think,
Criticism.
and not that I want to talk about that now, but I think Battleship does the same type of things right that Independence Day does, actually, where it's just like popcorn, and that's fine.
And it is, and yeah, I just like when you're kind of like mixing the whole like alien technology thing and just turning it into just a big old action sequence. I don't know. I mean, yeah,
Right.
like I said, it'll be a fun ride, but I
Right.
have no idea what to expect from any of these actors. So.
I mean, that's the thing. And like this new Independence Day movie is going to be stupid no matter what. The question is, is it going to be stupid and entertaining? And
Right.
I think none of us think that it will be. So
Right, can't really tell.
The lightning in our lightning round has slowed way down.
this is really slow. Yeah.
Last
Wow.
one. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The teaser dropped today. It was really brief. But Gentry, in or out?
Yeah, I mean it's J.K. Rowling. I'm, also a broken record, but I'm in. I'm in definitely. Eddie Redmayne's in it, and I didn't really get anything from. I mean, I get obviously a very small amount of story, but I'll be intrigued. Yeah, I'll be interested just because I love that. I love that whole world and the whole concept and everything, and I'm curious to see what they do. Getting away completely from the Harry Potter characters. So.
Matt, Eddie
No.
Redmayne, 1920s America, running around like a magician. In or out?
No, I don't think J.K. Rowling has done anything particularly good outside of the context of a boarding school mystery adventure. So I'm not just going to throw money at her because her name is attached to something, especially if it just seems like a cash grab. I will keep my eyes open and see if, things become promising, but I don't find anything compelling about the idea.
Okay. I think I'm in. The teaser was really brief, but I liked what I saw. It seems very like this. The plot of this movie is Eddie Redmayne's character brings a case filled with a bunch of different animals in it, and they get out and they have to hunt them down. But the trailer takes on this like super dramatic tone to it. Like this is like end of the world stake stuff.
Right.
So it's like got me really intrigued as to what they're going for with this thing. So
They show zero like magical creature type
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
right? They don't show anything,
right.
so it's really in the dark. But God, I hope it's not just another ridiculous cash grab.
I mean,
just-
on some level,
fluff.
it's going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
they're creating a story in this world for a specific reason. It's not as blatant cash grab as Hunger Games prequel, but
right. Wait, Hunger Games prequel?
Oh yeah, that's happening. They're doing prequels.
Oh, dear
Jeez.
God. I mean, the Harry Potter universe is nonsense.
Right.
Yes.
It's not a property that you want to go set a bunch of things in. You know, it's almost it would almost be like taking a fantasy world with some really vague force-like concept that can do various undefined things, like pushing people or choking them, and then making
would
a whole
ever
bunch
think
of
of such a
movies
thing?
in that universe and pretending that the rules set out in the first movies were ironclad.
Oh man,
Man, who would do something like that?
just destroyed a lot of kids' childhoods.
Hey, I got a special bonus in or out.
Oh yeah.
It's this movie called Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Oh snap!
I don't know why you would bring that up in this context, but yeah, I guess I'll see it.
Let's talk about Star Wars. Everyone on this podcast, we're all here because we really love the first three Star Wars movies. They're great movies, and I think we're all excited about what's going to happen in 3 days, 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
So let's talk some Star Wars.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure, I guess, we'll get into some of my problems, but to watch these movies again for the first time, all the way through, back to back to back in years this weekend. And these movies are really great. They're really good. So Matt, why don't you tell me what you love about Star Wars?
Wow. I mean, first of all, they're probably some of my favorite movies, and I definitely grew up with them. And I probably love different things about them at different times. Like I pretty much just wanted to be a Jedi from the ages of 7 through
30.
25. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then kind of gradually came to realize that they're extremely well put together from a story viewpoint. I guess that's mainly okay. So now I've wandered a bit, but my answer is they're some of the tightest and most compelling and most engrossing storytelling in any movie. And from the level of like the characters to the level of the overarching story, it's really just great.
That's a good point. And, it's really funny. We were just talking about Independence Day and the characters who really just served as archetypes in that film. The same is kind of true here. I mean, every one of these characters is serving a very traditional archetype.
Absolutely.
But they're also characterized so well. I mean, this film series is the poster child for why the hero's journey, whole archetype is not inherently a bad thing.
Right.
I think there's been a lot of pushback against the hero's journey,
Sure.
mainly because it's been so overdone. But it proves that if you do it right, it can be really good.
Well, you draw the line like with the story a lot of times, right? The script. I feel like they walk a very fine line when it comes to like archetypes and whatnot. Whereas Independence Day, you're just kind of like you don't really care about anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a popcorn flick. You're just watching all the mindless action. With Star Wars, I mean, absolutely. If anything, drew me in, and even at such a young age, it was all these characters. Every single one was just different in their own way, and brought something. I don't know, something unique. I feel like to the table, which is you can't say that for a lot of space adventure type movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And just to add another thing, since it's got more like awesome moments in it than almost anything I can think of. There are a lot of movies that try to have lots of awesome moments. I mean, I hate to say it, but like
Agreed.
The Avengers movies, like I do like them actually, but like you can just see them sort of nakedly reaching for the awesome
A little
moment.
forced.
Yeah, and it's like we have the camera flying around the heroes, and it's like, okay, I mean, I see what you're trying to do, and thus it doesn't really affect me very much.
It's almost overproduced.
Yeah, but there's so many moments in all three movies where there's so much going on with the characters, and it's so dramatic and also just just awesome that it's just affects me more than almost any other movie. And I admit part of that may be nostalgia, but I don't think it is all nostalgia.
I think the thing that surprised me most on this last viewing, these are slow movies, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean, Star Wars in particular takes a very long time to set itself up, and it gives you a very long time with each of your characters, which is why you get to like these characters so much. We spend a lot of time with Luke on Tatooine that really isn't the main overarching plot of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's character building. It's character building and world building, and it spends so much time doing that. And even Empire does the same thing. Every time it introduces a new character, we get plenty of time with these characters. We spend a lot of time. I mean, like half of Empire is Luke with Yoda in a swamp training. Like that's half the movie, and we spend so much time building their relationship, and it's all really believable. It takes time to build the world. You're absolutely right. It's just so well done, in basically every aspect. The other thing that really surprised me is how simple of a movie Star Wars is. Like we talk a lot about we were talking about the complex world in Harry Potter and the rules of the Star Wars universe. In this film, it's very cut and dry. It's not a complicated movie. There's a very obvious goal, obvious bad guys, obvious problems to overcome. It doesn't delve into the real mythology of the Force or anything. It's just a thing, and the Force almost in the first movie serves as just like a metaphor for Luke's putting trust in himself. And it's really well done. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, there's actually something to that, which is that it's actually hard to put your finger on what it is when a movie just really executes perfectly. Like you can't just say like, oh, and it's because of the camera work. It's like, no, it's everything came together, on every level. And that's what's super rare. Like it's much easier to find a movie that didn't quite work out and say, oh, well, the characterization or whatever, but it's like, well, this movie just came together like perfectly. I don't use that word lightly. So yeah, it's very hard to say like, this is why it was good. It's like, well, it was just great.
Yeah.
I agree. You guys are making some great points. Matt, you even just saying like kind of like the small moments, which I think we'll all get into, maybe kind of come up with like our favorite moments for each film, small like subtlety, but that's what it is. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just everything that I enjoy in a movie came together just all at the same time with this. The score is already amazing, and you have, these great, sad moments, but at the same time, it is a space narrative, and it moves in a straight line. There's nothing like super complex about it, but the characters, just in the small little things that they do, really, they just kind of evolve. I mean, I guess maybe like the only thing, like in A New Hope, with Luke, he does a good job of being kind of like this, I don't want to say like annoying or anything, but
no,
he
is
right.
Brat,
He's kind of like a brat, just like, oh, I'm living with my aunt and uncle, and it's like one moment it's there like sitting there in the desert, and then the next he's getting into next wing to try to save the rebels, like it's and it happens all so fast, and everything in between is fun and well written, but simple, which I think sometimes can work. I think that's what a lot of these, I just think a lot of films try to overdo it. I mean, Avengers, I think, is a good example. Like, there are some good moments, but I think sometimes it does feel a little forced, and I think only certain characters can pull it off.
Yeah.
Like Tony Stark can pull it off pretty much at any point, but sometimes I feel like, Hemsworth as Thor. Sometimes I'm like, that's a little too cheesy. But in Star Wars, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, again, I really wanted to like mention some of the moments that really, like, I just really love. When they're in the Death Star, and they're in the control room. Even since I was little, like it part just always cracks me up is when Han Solo pretends to be the, pretends to be the fucking the soldier, and he's just like, oh, everything's okay, doing well here, everything good with you, and they're like, what, who is this? And he's like, it's a boring conversation anyway, and then shoots the thing. Like, come on, that is classic Han Solo right there, just getting out of a situation and just saying screw it, and just totally like changing the pace. Star Wars brings a lot of that to the table. I think that's why I loved it even as a kid, which is you can't say for a lot of movies. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think what the movies do really well is take scenes in which there's a very clear objective in each scene, but the way it writes them, it makes the characters are so well defined that they react to the scenes in a perfect way. I mean, that's how Han Solo would react to that scene, and the objective of the scene is they're breaking into the detention block, people are coming to kill them, and like that's the objective of the scene. How do you do that? And this movie chooses to do that by having this small, quick moment where he's pretending with a guy on the other side of the line. Yeah, and those moments not only flesh out the characters, they flesh out the world. There's so many of those small moments. Like I like for whatever reason, I always remember the moment when Obi-Wan's sneaking around the Death Star, and those two stormtroopers are like having their own side conversation. Yeah. And then he distracts them to get around them. But it's like this, it's just tiny,
which is very organic, and it's
this tiny little small moment showing that these two people are just guys doing their job, and
it's like messing with stormtroopers 101 is kind of like how I see their whole Death Star, kind of their little mini episode. But yeah, when you get these characters, and that's what it's all about. You flesh them out, they start to act the way people act in real life, right? And then you're mixing that in a fictional space adventure with some cool effects, and when it blends, like when it blends and looks that genuine, like it makes makes the hairs on your arm stand up. You're like, wow, I really got a good feeling from watching that, and at the same time you throw in some classic Williams score, and it's just amazing.
I think you're right, Gentry. I think like the minimalism of how the characters are portrayed in a consistent way is almost sells it more powerfully than if the movie drew more attention to it. Like, since we're talking about favorite scenes, it always gets me when Han has told everyone that he's just taking his money and leaving, and everyone's disappointed in him, and you can sort of see that he's conflicted, and you now at that point in the movie, you know him well enough to like know what's going on with him. But then we move away from Han for like 10 minutes and pretty much forget that he exists, because you're just in this really tense dogfight, and then like at the last possible second, Millennium Falcon comes out of the sun, and you get like 3 frames of Millennium Falcon and like one shot of Han saying something, and then it's back to Luke, and like it doesn't. If it were a lesser movie, it would show like a panoramic swooping shot of the Millennium Falcon coming in and like shooting 17 TIE fighters, and then Han Solo like nodding into the camera or something. And it's like, so that moment is so effective. That is my favorite moment of this movie, and it's like 3 seconds long. Seriously, it's just showing that this character has changed, and he's come back, and he's actually risking his life for his friend at this point.
And I like what you said about them kind of tipping their hand toward it too. There's that moment where you can tell he has doubt, so it makes it so it's still a surprise moment when you're like, oh, he came back, but it's also completely believable for the character to do that. It's never like, oh, Han wouldn't have done that. It's like, of course he would have. Like, and in the back of your mind, you probably always knew that he would have, but you're still surprised in the moment. It's still like, oh, that's badass.
Yeah.
And even like the quieter, more dramatic, slower moments too. Like even when Luke's just standing outside his little hut, like staring at the 2 suns, like that's still a powerful moment for me. It still like kind of grabs me, and you're kind of like, at one point you're that person. We were those boys kind of like looking off into a distance at our whatever future might happen, in this life. And, a lot of it still applies, and it just works. I mean, and again, this is only just the New Hope, which says so much.
Yeah, so we've been talking about Star Wars a lot. Let's move on to Empire, because I think a lot of this stuff still applies in that movie as well. But again, we're talking about moments. There's so many individual moments in that one that are just wonderful as well. Matt, what's your favorite moment in that movie?
The thing that jumps to mind is I'm not going to say this is definitely my favorite moment, but the thing that jumps to mind is like the part when they're inside the worm on the asteroid, which may seem like a weird thing
Fun scene
to point out. But it was a very unique tone and concept, and just like the moment when they realize that they're inside a giant animal. It's like this is a sort of a side plot that's entirely separate from the main plot of the movie, but they still included this really great scary idea of this giant space worm, and to me that's just sort of a microcosm of the whole movie. Is like any little detail of the movie is itself an awesome little thing that you can just obsess about.
Yeah. So is this your favorite of the trilogy?
I think I gave my official answer to that at some point, but now I forgot. I think I might have actually said that Jedi was my favorite, just to be contrary.
Yeah, so I in the past have talked down this movie, not because I didn't like it, because I didn't really, in my mind, I never understood why this one was the one that everyone loved the most. On my rewatch, I get it a lot more now. This is a really well constructed film. I still like the other two more than this. I think Jedi is still my favorite, and I think Star Wars is second. But I chastise this film for the moment that you pointed out in the asteroid, the monster in the asteroid, and for the slow parts with Luke and Yoda on Dagobah. But they really worked for me this last time I watched them. I don't know if it's been so long since I watched this movie that I was just a stupid kid that didn't care as much about slow parts, but the character development that happens in these parts, and that's the entire second act of the movie. That's what it is. It's people staying in place. I mean, the third act doesn't start till they all get to Cloud City, but it's literally just them staying into place, acting off each other.
Yeah.
And it's like the Yoda moments to me are just so well done. The cave stuff, I loved the stuff with the cave. I really did like the Han and Leia moments in the asteroid a lot more too. It's just like the perfect. I love every scene they're in together in this movie. Like they're just their chemistry and them playing off each other. It's just so amazing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. I guess because you've basically taken Han, Leia, and then thrown in C-3PO just to make it hilarious.
Yeah.
That they're these people who they really sort of need to hash out what's going on between them, but both of them are always trying to evade the other, and now they're stuck, metaphorically in a capsule together. So yeah,
yep.
That's how that scene works, I think.
It's funny that talking about our favorite scenes, would any of you list the Luke, the "I'm your father" scene, the most iconic scene, probably the history of cinema? I think it's a really good scene still. But
it's a great scene. I mean, I don't know. It's actually other things about Empire so when I was younger, Jedi was my favorite when I was younger. And I think a lot of the reason was because it was the beginning and the end. I just absolutely loved. I would say I guess when Luke meets the Emperor was one of my favorite parts. But I guess recently in the last maybe 10 or 15 years after I rewatched Empire a couple of times, I just fell in love with it. I think it is because of the smaller moments. I think the Battle of Hoth is so much fun, and it was done well. And it's a good place to start. Very good intro in terms of picking up the pace. But it's a smaller, the Yoda everything that happens, on Dagobah, and just the conversations, and like just watching Luke kind of like thinking about things and like learning at the same time and reflecting and disagreeing, or asking Yoda to confirm. I just thought it was done so well. But the Han and Leia scenes as well is what gets me, and throwing in like C-3PO in there, like just his reactions, like you have like a robot, right? And when Han says something to him and C-3PO like turns but doesn't say anything, and then kind of looks at him and then like turns around like, did I just hear that right? Again, lends itself to the great character building. I mean, he's a freaking robot.
I loved the moment when C-3PO is complaining. He's sitting in one of the Millennium Falcon seats or something. He's just complaining about something, and like Luke and Han and Leia just look at each other, and then Leia just reaches over and switches him off. And there's no dialogue there. It's just like
exactly. I totally interrupted though about the last scene, or the I'm your father scene, but I don't know. What do you guys say? I mean, it's up there, of course.
Yeah,
it's just
it doesn't really affect me much on an emotional level when I'm watching the scene, because I mean you're so conscious that it's happening. I mean, if anything, like the moments just before that where Vader is herding him toward the ledge, just like with these with this inexorable, implacable advance.
Right.
And Luke is basically just like clinging on and just knows that he's been totally outmatched. Like that's more emotional than I am your father.
Noob skills really show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's got to be a moment in my life that I didn't know that Vader was Luke's father, but I don't remember it. Like
Me neither.
I don't remember the reveal.
Yeah.
Like it's not in my head whenever it happened.
Well, because I think we all saw it at home, did we not?
Yeah.
I mean, I was too young to see it in theaters, and so it was probably just some, watching it with my parents or something, and you just don't. Yeah, it wasn't until they redid them, when they came out with the episodes. I guess like in was it like 97?
97, yeah.
Yeah. Then I went to go see Empire in theaters, and that's when it really hit me, and I was like, wow. I was like, man, I wish I had seen this, when it first came out, because at that point I already knew what was happening or what was going to happen, and I just pictured, and that's something I think about, and it's a very good question, right? It's like, where were you when you found out that it was his father?
I want to talk about the Hoth battle real quick. Because you said something interesting, that it's like the opening of this film. And when I watched it again this weekend, it's kind of not. Like, I think the actual battle for Hoth started 20 minutes into the movie.
Right.
Which again, I think goes to each film takes a long time to set themselves up. And I think that's a good thing. I think this movie there's that whole scene where Luke gets captured and saved by Han, and like, the movie takes its time setting up, showing us this is where the characters are now. This is like they show Luke's a commander in the rebellion now.
Right.
I think Han's a captain. Like it takes time showing, okay, this is where we left the characters, this is where they are now, and we're gonna take all this time to bring you up to speed.
And they're still so vulnerable,
Yeah.
I mean, they're just not all of a sudden like, all right, next big battle, let's go kick some stormtrooper ass. No, it's actually like they're still struggling. It's a good introduction, and it shows like kind of the detriment of the whole situation. The base is about to fall. I don't know if people really kind of notice that, like seeing it for the first time. It's kind of like, oh, it's going to be a battle, and I'm sure they're gonna. And it's like, no,
it's really not even a battle. I mean, it's like,
right.
It's a slaughter.
It is exactly.
Right, they're just defending it until the ships can get away.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
So let's move on to Jedi here, because we could talk about each one of these movies for an hour each, I think. So Jedi is interesting because it was, and I think it still is, my favorite of the trilogy. And not just to be contrarian like you, Matt. I actually think it's the best movie.
I think I agree.
I think that's a lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people say it's significantly worse, and I just think that's really interesting. And I think
I never understood why they said it was like by far the worst one. I never got that. And it's not even like because of my like whatever transition growing up, like starting to enjoy Empire a little bit more. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think the opening, the Jabba's palace opening, is perfect.
Yes,
Even if
one of the best.
Even if it really has no relevance on the overall plot, it's really just taking half an hour to set our
It's just a good subplot.
set our cast back to one, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really well done. And again, it takes the time. Like these movies always introduce our characters to us step by step. Even the characters we've known, like they slowly bring out each new character, and then finish with Luke showing us the great amount of change that Luke's undergone since we last saw him.
Yeah. It's a perfect appetizer, for the rest of the movie. Like I literally remember having the box set of the VHS, obviously the redone editions or whatever, and I would always pick Jedi, and I would always start it, and I would love the first scene, just like the whole Tatooine scene. Great opening.
When I was a kid, I would put on my black turtleneck and get my my green stick that you turn upside down and it goes and I would jump off of the stairs or whatever, which was my my execution board on the Sarlacc. And what I'm trying to say is like that was always the scene that I loved. At that age.
The verbal exchanges, the kind of like the sparring between Luke and some of the characters in the in the bar and everything that kind of got me. They kind of just drew me in. That's why I hated the stupid dancing thing, Alien, so much. It just drove me nuts. I would fast forward that actually. So obnoxious, but we won't talk about that.
Let's talk about Boba Fett. Because one of the complaints I see a lot with why Jedi is the worst one is because it's like they kill Boba Fett, one of the coolest characters in the trilogy, in a really stupid way. Here's my argument. Boba Fett is not one of the coolest characters in the trilogy. Boba Fett's barely in these movies and doesn't really do anything.
Right.
He's cool in the expanded universe that everyone knows about, but in the concept of just these 3 movies, Boba Fett's nothing.
No, it's just a cool armor design. It's a cool.
I was about to
design.
say it's an aesthetic guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like his ship is cool looking, and he's cool looking, and he doesn't say much, and so you can project onto him. But like, there's actually no indication in either movie that he's a good combatant in any way. I mean, all he does is he flees. He flees in Empire, and then he tries to fight and gets easily killed in Jedi.
I think the only actual good like bounty hunting he does is when he's smart enough to track the Millennium Falcon off of the being floating out with the garbage. I think that's the only cool thing he does in the entire series, and that has nothing to do with his cool armor or even really his ship. He just probably guessed on something and did right. So I think that's a stupid argument. So the other big why Jedi is bad argument is the Ewoks. I think this is a stupid argument too, but I'll let you guys talk on it.
Yeah, I think it's just when people. Okay, so my feeling about why people don't like Jedi is that for some people, it in the same way that A New Hope just comes together perfectly. For some people, I think Jedi just doesn't come together, but they can't quite put their finger on why, and so they just sort of reach out for anything that seemed off to them. And I think the Ewoks are sort of the number one thing that stands out about this movie as being imperfect because, as movie special effects, they're pretty much just obviously little people in suits. Mm-hmm. The movie probably spends a little bit too much time on the Ewoks relative to how interesting they are.
It's...
I
can't quite pin it actually. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, I never had like a real issue. Even at this age, I still don't really have a big issue with the Ewoks.
Neither do I.
They're childish.
Yeah,
they are. But these movies,
they don't ruin the movie.
These movies are made for kids.
Yeah,
and I know.
Sure.
We get Matt, you and I, and even Daniel get into a lot of arguments on what is made for kids or not. But to me, that's the target audience of these kids or these films, and we're the beneficiaries of getting to still like them as adults, as man children. But I mean, that's so people like Empire because it's the darkest one, and people hate Jedi because it has little kitty teddy bears in it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like but that's becoming so routine, like that argument, that it's like you ask somebody that actually truly believes that, and then you're like, but why? Like, and and they can't really explain it.
The movie also takes the time to show the little kitty teddy bears get mercilessly slaughtered,
destroyed,
by
right.
the Empire.
One of them being like, "Come on, come on," and then realizes his friend is dead.
Yeah, like.
And you're like, as a kid, that was horrible,
That's darker, I would argue, than anything in Empire.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, and he like sits there and like is obviously distraught, and then the camera just lingers on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
when it like goes to like its like little companion or friend or whatever,
right,
is holding the body. Well, I don't know, like, so like I mean the thing about, they bring in, Endor, right? It's a new planet, new aesthetics, different place. You go Tatooine, Hoth, Endor, like all these different places. I don't know. Is there really any? I can't really recall there being like another major race that's kind of introduced in the whole series. So, I guess in your face, and maybe that's what annoys all these fanboys so much.
I think that the story, from what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the original plan was for this to be a Wookiee planet. So that instead of Ewoks, they're going to be a bunch of Wookiees, and everyone loves Chewbacca, so they're like, Wookiees are awesome, which we will see in the Star Wars Holiday Special that is not true. But George changed it to be Ewoks because he wanted it to appeal more to children. That's the story. So I think people latch on to that story, and that's their hate for it.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing, like. This is the reason this is, I think, my favorite, has absolutely nothing to do with the Ewoks.
Yeah.
It's the Emperor versus Luke, subplot, and
I would call it the plot.
Yeah, I mean it's almost it's the culmination of the whole series, and it's like, right, if that scene works for you, then it makes up for the whole rest of the movie, even if the rest of the movie were crap, which it isn't. And I think for some people, maybe that scene just doesn't work, and I don't know why that is, because I'm not one of those people.
Yeah,
like maybe they think the Emperor is over the top or something. Because like I love how over the top the Emperor is, and how he's just evil.
He loves being evil. Like he relishes in it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's like what you need at this point in the story.
And why wouldn't he? There was never any. There's no backstory with the Emperor. Like. Where was it supposed to be different?
No,
we don't want one.
He's a bad guy.
We don't need it. Yeah. We don't need it. It's perfect. Like, he's really just a bad guy.
It's really lucky that they never made a backstory or anything.
Yeah, no. I agree. That would have been a waste.
Yeah. So I think, and I agree with you, and that scene, that's my favorite scene in the entire trilogy, when Vader threatens Luke's sister and he goes ape shit and starts like he's not even sword fighting anymore. He's basically using a lightsaber like a club, and the music swells into that perfect orchestral thing, and it's just, that scene is incredible. Here's where I think the problem, and this is the only time I'll admit there's a problem with this movie. The reason why the ending doesn't come together is because there are 3 simultaneous endings happening all at the same time. And they all relate to each other, but they're all tonally very different. Mm-hmm. So you're cutting from Luke's very dramatic, very emotional confrontation with the Emperor to Han and Leia's battle on Endor, which is like by the time that the actual Luke's confrontation is happening, the sad Ewok part is over, and it's like it's more jokey. It's Chewie getting into the AT-ST and all that,
tricking the stormtroopers to come out. Yeah.
So there's a lot of tonal shifts, and then shifting to the more action adventure-y part of them flying the battle in space. So I think it really, this time watching it more than ever before, whenever we cut away from Luke's scene, I didn't want us to. I really wanted to stay there in that moment. And maybe it's because a few weeks ago I got into an argument on the best lightsaber fight in these movies, because I get into stupid arguments like that. And I saw a cut of Luke's entire scene where they just cut out all the cutaways to the different parts of the movie. and I liked that so well. So much. Like that was like, and every time it cut away, I was like, damn it, I want to be back to that. So that's, I think, maybe why the scene doesn't work as well for them. But it's still like the everything from the moment that Luke goes apeshit to, I think, the Emperor's death, I think that's all one continuous scene. And that part by itself just works so well. And it's like, it's a perfect culmination of everything that of Luke's entire journey through this whole thing. Yeah. It's an amazing scene.
Right. It's probably my favorite scene of the entire series.
Yeah.
And I agree that if I'm not mistaken, right when that ends, like all the wind gets sucked out of the sails because it cuts to some, essentially irrelevant thing happening, either with, the dogfight in space or on Endor. And it's like, look, we have a resolution. I kind of want to sit with this for a second.
Right.
And know we're being rushed on to the next thing. I agree that that's probably a flaw.
And then when we cut back to Luke and Vader, and there's the whole taking off of the helmet in that scene. And part of me wishes that scene would have just carried on from the death of the Emperor. That would have just gone right into that instead of cutting away and letting that air get sucked out. I understand it's a problem with structure that you have so many things going on at the same time. You can't stay away from one of them for too long.
Wait, so you're saying like when he wants to take his father's body and he's like laying him by the ramp, you're saying that should have been how different?
I'm just saying I think that should have been a straight continuation from when Vader throws the Emperor. I think you don't cut at that right moment. After. Let that moment sink in, and then have that whole death monologue right there. Where
he doesn't even make it to the hangar, basically.
Yeah. But before, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess like the thing that it's to me, I think it's like the sequence where Luke is doing like the hack of Vader basically, and he just goes crazy. It's probably like one of my favorite sequences with John Williams' music in it. I think Jedi has the best music, or like the best music editing. Yeah. I don't know what you'd call it.
I don't know. Is that orchestral score that plays during that scene? Is that anywhere else in the films? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't recognize it in any other parts of the series, and that's probably what puts not only just that scene, but even like when he's talking to Anakin, at that point when he's taking the mask off, and he like slowly dies, and the little lights like blinking behind him, at the same time like you can hear like a bing bing, it's like really, it's just so you feel so sad for the whole situation.
I think those are all variations on the Darth Vader motif, but they may be really extreme variations to the point where you don't recognize them.
Because as he dies, it plays like a slowed down, depressed version of his main theme.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
But before we move on from that scene, I just my favorite 5 seconds of the whole series is, and I think this like speaks to the power of what they've done, is just when Vader is like looking back and forth between Luke and the Emperor.
Oh gosh.
And it's like this is a mask. This is just a helmet turning back and forth.
Yep.
There's no emotions playing on this person's face because it's a mask, but you still feel
it, and you
the
see
horrible struggle that he's going through. Yeah. And that's like, wow, you have perfectly conveyed the character to me. If I don't even need to see the face.
Hey Matt, wouldn't it be really nice if like during that moment, just to make sure you're understanding the emotional part, that Vader's saying no over and over again?
Yeah, I think it would have been improved if he had said something.
So that perfectly moves us into our next topic, because the versions
really quickly, what Matt said there, the timing in all three of these movies, I think, is some of the best I've ever seen between actors. Spot on timing, and a lot of the Dagobah scenes, a lot of when like Luke is talking to Obi-Wan's ghost, I think is some of like my favorite timing reaction type of dialogue exchange. That's
from a certain point of view.
Right.
Yeah.
From a certain point of view.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Or when Luke's just like, in Empire is like, is the dark side stronger? And Yoda's like, no. He says it like really quickly. He's like, no. Easier to tempt.
Yeah.
And just some so many great things. Okay, go ahead. Move on.
Okay, so what I wanted to briefly talk about, because I don't like saying bad things about these movies, but the special editions don't count as these movies, right? So,
Right.
So George Lucas, in his infinite wisdom, has seen since 1997 and going until when did the Blu-rays come out? A few years ago. To constantly tinker and mess with these films. Matt, I know you said last week, and I don't remember if this was while we were recording or not, that you have not bought a copy of these films since they were on the VHS, right?
Right. I'm not going to buy the edited versions because I'm going to be so annoyed that I'm not going to enjoy them, and I don't want to show those versions to my kids either because I'm going to have to like sigh heavily and explain what's wrong with it, which will just derail the momentum. So yeah, I have no interest in them.
Yeah. So I bought them last weekend.
So naturally, I went and got them.
Here's the thing: I really wanted to watch the movies. It's the only way you can watch the movies right now because I don't have a VHS player.
Scott, I gotta lend you my DVD combo VHS player. I can mail it up to you for
so
$15.
Here's what I'll say about the special editions. For the most part, they're harmless. The funniest thing about them is the 70s and 80s special effects look great still. The 90s special effects that were added in the 97 special edition look awful. Like, that computer graphics has aged so terribly. The Han and Jabba scene that was added, which is stupid and pointless and a terrible scene, Jabba the Hutt looks fake. And it ruins, like, it's, like, that scene is terrible.
And they showed the making, or the enhancements, by the way, on the VHS for the redone ones in 97, the first couple of minutes before the movie starts.
I remember
they actually showed. You remember that?
Yeah.
And even I really, even thinking back then, I was like, still not that good.
I remember the one moment, actually, where they're like, well, there was a problem, because there's one point when Han walks behind him.
Yep.
And that couldn't happen, because Jabba has a tail.
So then, got a little
So then we came up with the, what if he steps on the tail?
We had him step on Vito Corleone's foot, basically.
Here's a guy who he owes thousands of dollars to that just sent someone to go kill him. He's just gonna step on his tail. That'll be funny.
Oh, sorry, Java. Tripped on that. Tripped on your body over there.
My bad. You won't react to it at all, besides making that noise, and then we'll just go right back into the dialogue and act like nothing happened.
Yeah. And by the way, the scene doesn't convey anything that wasn't already conveyed by the Greedo scene.
Right. That's the other thing I noticed is the dialogue is almost identical. It's like literally he has the same thing about like complaining about a smuggler who drops his cargo at the first sign of Imperial. Like, it's almost word for word. It's almost as if they cut the scene for a very specific reason because it wasn't necessary.
Right.
Yep.
But so the crazy thing is they get worse as they go. So that scene's bad in Star Wars, but the rest of it, there's not too many. Like, everyone hates the changing to Greedo shooting first thing. I don't really care about that. Like, that's stupid. They shouldn't have changed it, but whatever. But as the movies go on, it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
On Hoth, where they showed the monster.
Right.
So that entire scene is constructed to where you don't see the monster, so that the terror is from hearing noises from something you don't see. So whenever they cut to the added scene of showing the stupid monster sitting there eating, like, it ruins the scene. It's just like, these are the most boneheaded, like, stupid decisions.
If I remember, isn't it just like a wide shot of like a completely well-lit creature?
Yeah,
which if you know
totally,
anything about, that's just not how you film that. You're trying to make it scary, for Christ's sake.
And it's way too well lit, and the lighting doesn't even match
Yeah.
the scene, because I mean obviously it was filmed 20 years later. It's just it's just so incredibly stupid. Like I just like it, and then it culminates in the dumbest addition ever that ruins the scene that Matt and I just said was our favorite scene in the entire series, which is adding Vader screaming no as he lurches towards the Emperor and tosses him, which like
I never want to see that, by the way.
So
I feel like that's just gonna.
This is bad. This is bad on multiple fronts. It's bad because why anyone saw that scene and thought we need some dialogue here to make sure we're selling the fact that Vader doesn't want the Emperor to hurt his son.
Right. So like, what is he thinking here?
Yeah, like
I mean, if that's the case, he might as well have already been like, wait, don't do that. Like, you know,
it's doubly bad because all they did was take the dialogue from a movie that I don't want to mention and carbon copy it over to this scene. So the audio doesn't match. It's too loud. It gets garbled with the music. It's pointless. To me, this is George Lucas very specifically saying to the people who don't like me tampering with these films, fuck you. I don't care.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing I can get from it. Like,
or is he really just like a big tool? Like maybe he's just always been one of those guys that just is in his own little world, liking things that, you know, that he really thinks is adding coolness to it, and everybody else is kind of like, yeah, sure.
I think every other change. I think you're right. I think every change he's made to this film, I think he thought this is better.
It's like, yeah. But you think that was like an actual?
Yeah, like I think that was a straight up fuck you.
Yeah.
There's no other explanation for it. Like
pretty messed up, George.
It just doesn't make sense in the concept of the scene. It doesn't make sense given the history and the backlash to that particular no sound in a movie that will go unnamed. Like it's very specifically designed to elicit the worst possible reaction from people that like this movie.
I mean,
there's already so much power happening in that moment too. There's like the electricity still flowing out of his hands. You know, he's picking him up. You know, you're hearing everything that's, you know, you're kind of hearing everything that's still happening outside of the ship and everything. And it's why dilute that with that ridiculous noise?
Yeah, and it's also very clear that he's finally decided to save his son by his actions. You don't need words.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, the only possible, you know, charitable interpretation is so, and this is sort of a segue perhaps into the next topic, which is George Lucas and what the hell is he doing? And, which is so he's really concerned about repetition of like themes between his movies, including the ones that shall not be named, and he goes on and on about how like these movies rhyme and they have the same elements, and they even have sort of things are shot the same way between the movies. And the thing is, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter on any level. It doesn't make you feel anything. Maybe you'll notice it, but it just doesn't matter. But he thinks this is very, very important, and he thinks that this is like genius level stuff. I mean, I really think that he thinks he's a genius, and he thinks that this is like an amazing, innovative thing. And so he's thinking,
like he's really on like the literal epic poem level to where it's like everything actually matches up.
I mean, he sees it that way, and thus like he's like, oh, I'm going to take this refrain from the end of the parallel movie in the other series and shove that in here because then it will rhyme even better.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, that in both the creation and destruction of Darth Vader has the same line.
Yeah, but
that's stupid.
It's stupid. It doesn't do any work for you from a storytelling point of view.
It's not needed.
And this is a great segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is how George Lucas views himself and his contribution to filmmaking, and what really, to me, what Star Wars is. So we all love these movies, but Star Wars is a blockbuster action adventure that just happens to be done really, really well, and it's really not anything more than that.
Right.
It was so well done that it hit a particular nerve with people and got huge. It doesn't need to be this grand, artistic, brilliantly rhymed and structured thing. That's not what it is. That's not. I really think George Lucas sees himself as this artistic, independent, creating beautiful works of art filmmaker. And I don't think that's what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very clear that's what he is. His story is a man who hated the system becoming part of the biggest system ever created in the movies.
Yeah. I mean, strictly, like, he's actually directed very few movies. He just got incredibly lucky with A New Hope, and
Yeah, at the lottery.
and basically, once you're like a billionaire from one movie, you can pretty much do anything you want, and
Yeah.
like there's going to be some level of success. I mean, he made tons of money on those other 3 movies that he made, and I'm sure he interprets that as like, well, people like them, people like what I'm doing, and doesn't, like, he just can't conceptualize that they would have made money no matter what, because they were tapping into the people's desire to see more Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at his director credits.
The only abject failure of his career monetarily is the Howard the Duck movie.
Yeah.
But see, I think you look at Howard the Duck, that's George Lucas. Like, that movie was weird and out there and not good. And you look at that movie and then you read the stories about, when George first wrote the script for Star Wars, like what he wanted the characters to be and the ideas that he had. Like, I think, wasn't Luke like an old man in the first version of the script or something?
I think so. I think he was an old man with a robot head, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And maybe this just, do you think he understands why people like Star Wars?
No, I don't. And the thing is, he had like co-writers on those movies.
Right.
I would dare say he had people sitting there being like, no, this is stupid. Like, let me do this for you. And he didn't understand what they were doing, and he didn't understand why what they were doing was necessary, and probably still doesn't understand.
Yeah, and if you read about the shoot for that first movie, there was constant battling. Like, he wasn't happy with any decision being made, and the shoot was a struggle. Everything, that movie barely got made. So yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he still doesn't get it. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, just to go through his director credits, he directed the 3 that will not be named. He directed A New Hope. He didn't direct. I mean, I think a lot of people don't know this. He did not direct Empire and Jedi.
And he has writing credits on both of those, but he's not the only writer on them.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's always had a big part of the story, but I can't imagine him writing some of the stuff that I've seen in all 3 movies. It's mind-boggling based off of what I've seen since.
And I'm pretty convinced, and maybe this isn't fair, but I think everything that works well about those movies, part of me thinks he didn't have anything to do with it, or very little input into it. I think he's a really good idea man. I think he's a really good businessman. I think George is
a good tech man, maybe, with his camera stuff.
But I don't even think, I think he was good with the technology.
Right.
And surrounding himself with the people that could figure out how to do this kind of stuff.
The actual technical setup.
Like
not necessarily
Lucas,
like
yeah, like
cinematography.
LucasArts is an amazing company that's done
Right.
for technology so much amazing stuff. So I don't want to sell him short on that side of it, but as a filmmaker, and making films are hard. Like it's hard to like it's a good movie is a miracle basically. But I just don't think he gets it.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. Like I don't know if you guys have ever seen American Graffiti.
I have not.
No, I haven't.
It's a good movie. It's not. It doesn't have a lot of flourish in it. It's a very simple movie. It's very 50s nostalgia. It's a good movie. He won, or he got nominated for Academy Awards for it, I think. And
Right.
that's it.
That's just adding more fuel to the fire, it seems. Dear Lord.
Yeah.
But-
Can we talk about his ex-wife at all?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, so there's like a theory. So some of it is known and some of it is conjectured. But what is known is that like his wife at the time, like when he was in film school and everything, or they met in film school and they got married, and she was the editor of Star Wars: A New Hope, and I mean, she was a successful like Hollywood person in her own right. She has like an editing credit on Taxi Driver, I believe.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like she wasn't just George Lucas's wife. Like if anything, she was probably more promising than he was in the early days.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a while since I read about this, but like he sort of went off to do his own thing and kind of became absorbed in his work, and she had an affair and left him, and he like never recovered from this, according to basically all of his close friends. And some people try to use this to explain basically him becoming a cynical husk of a man who just tried to pump money out of the franchise that he created.
Wow.
And
That's
also
unfortunate.
there's another theory that the reason why he would never release the original cuts of the movies was because the royalties would partially go to her, and he's basically just trying to screw her over. I'm not sure how substantiated this is, or whether it is actually true, but I'm going to repeat it irresponsibly to a wide audience.
Yeah, that's really interesting stuff. I thought I had heard she was the editor on Star Wars, but I didn't know she was really successful in the industry.
I wonder if they talk about that at all in the documentary I mentioned, the People versus George Lucas. But
I don't remember. I've seen that. I don't think they do very much. If
okay.
at all. I don't remember.
is that
honestly.
worth watching?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you'll be entertained if you're a Star Wars fan.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the thing about George is he's finally left this world he created, right? And I don't think he left it because he wanted to. I think he was hurt by people's reactions to his work. Because like you said, Matt, he thinks he's created great art. And he loves the rhyming aspect of this. He thinks he's created, I think, what is it? The ring theory is what it's called. How they all
The ring theory. Yeah.
something ridiculous.
The ring theory?
Yeah, that's what it's called. The how the different beats of the movies rhyme with each other.
Okay, right. I know. I kind of and I'd like to read more or hear more about the rhyming thing. I always thought it was kind of a joke, or like I think like watching the Red Letter series. I know that they like use that to like poke fun and stuff, but I didn't realize it was so serious. Like
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was
that's a
like
real
being
thing.
literal.
Yeah.
I think-
he, if anything, he takes it a lot more seriously than the Red Letter Media reviews even suggest.
Right? Absolutely, and that's where I was like a little bit, or obviously misled. I just didn't know that's like exact, like 110%. Like it has to rhyme. It's like where did you just like? I don't know. The poetry is like in the in the actions. It doesn't have to be all these ridiculous
It
changes.
doesn't have to be literal rhyming.
Yeah.
It does not.
I mean, it
know
makes
what
as
poetry
much
is?
sense. Well, right, yeah, I mean, it makes as much sense as like making a sequel to, I guess it would be like as if you made everything in the Odyssey literally rhyme with everything in the Iliad,
Yeah.
even if it was unrelated. Like it's like you're foisting this weird stylistic construct onto something where it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's regardless. George has left the building. He is not in charge of Star Wars anymore. On Episode 7, I think he's got like a consultant credit or something, but that's one of those things that the industry throws out, like to just give a bone to people.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he hasn't done any actual work on this movie. And I know one of the things that kind of supports everything that we talked about is his reaction to Episode 7. So his quote was, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, "I really think the fans are gonna love it." So he wouldn't say whether he liked it or not, but that to me was like George thinks, fine, is this what you guys wanted? Like this was not what I wanted to do, but this is what the fans wanted, and by taking it away from me and giving it to someone else, it's finally become the fan service that everyone wanted. So it was a very kind of passive-aggressive comment.
Yeah.
Also seems a little ironic. And he's saying that for The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah. Well, that's honestly jumping into The Force Awakens. None of us have seen it, but I'm a little worried it's going to be overly fan servicey.
Yeah.
That's my main fear of this movie is it's just going to be constant references to.
You think that's what Abram does?
I don't think that's specifically what he does. I think that's what.
I mean, like, is it something that you've heard of him being
he's
known for?
Set out to do in this film.
I mean, if you think about,
sorry, go ahead.
like just like Super 8, it's not like he has E.T. literally like showing up in the movie, but he references Spielberg in every other way that he can. If that makes sense.
That's true.
But like I mean, just to be specific, like I'm probably gonna roll my eyes if like there's a big dramatic moment where like Han like turns around, like takes off his hood, and the camera is like, and like the music swells, and it's like, oh, it's Han. It's like, well,
right.
Yeah. I mean, yes,
I agree with that.
but just don't insult me. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I've only heard people's
Don't patronize
reactions
this.
from Twitter. There's a lot of callbacks, from what I understand. A lot. It's going to constantly be remember.
Please don't tell me it's another Crystal Skull.
Remember this moment. I don't think it's going to be Crystal Skull level of bad, but it's gonna reference the trilogy a lot in structure and character and story beats. That's the movie it's gonna be. I'm worried about that, but I also think JJ knows how to make a really fun, well-paced film. So, I mean, to me, even taking out my nostalgia, I don't think that this movie could possibly be as good in my mind as the original trilogy. So I don't think it's gonna ever meet my expectations as far as that's concerned. But I think from everything I'm seeing on Twitter, everybody needs to temper a little bit your expectations for this thing.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm pretty tempered. So
I was gonna say, I think I was getting excited, and I think the last 2 or 3 days kind of like shot me back down to earth. I haven't even seen it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that, and I mentioned this before, but the thing we all need to remember is J.J. Abrams is a good filmmaker who's made a lot of bad work. Like you mentioned, Super 8, that's not a very good movie. That movie
Never got to see Super 8.
The movie doesn't work on a fundamental level.
yeah.
Of when it's trying to tell a cute E.T. alien story, but also has the alien eat people.
Like rips
Is that what it is?
Like
Yes.
on camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the trailer being like the biggest tease ever, and I was just frustrated watching the trailer, and then I never actually got to see it in theaters. So
Imagine if you saw E.T. rip someone in half.
Yeah.
Dear
Imagine if you
Lord.
saw
And the
E.T.
movie-
walking around with a leg coming out of his mouth.
Oh my gosh!
And the
Is it
movie
like
still,
it's like a PG-13 movie or what?
yeah, but the movie still plays. So you see E.T. rip someone in half and eat them, and then the movie continues to play E.T. as the innocent creature that we need to protect. Like it just doesn't. It just doesn't work.
It just
Is
doesn't
it-
work like visually.
Is it an actual ET?
No,
Like,
it's a
is
big, giant, weird-looking
Oh,
monster.
okay.
But
But they're
it's-
treating him like ET.
It's a standard J.J. Abrams like spider squid. He uses the same
he does.
monster design for too many things.
He really does. And this is the guy that made Star Trek Into Darkness,
Yeah,
which was so. I don't know.
And Cloverfield, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So that's another squid monster.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't know. I think if the movie's fun, I'll be happy with it. You know, like
Yeah.
there's probably going to be some roll my eye moments, like Matt said. They're going to do some very heavy-handed callbacks.
Oh man, that's gonna frustrate me early, but I'll push it aside and just try to enjoy it. Really.
Yeah,
I
See
guess
if there's
that's a
anything
good
new I
point.
can. Yeah. I mean,
Just like
just
having the right attitude.
yeah.
Like
Well-
because if I go into it with the attitude that I'm going to roll my eyes every time there's a callback, it's like, well, that's why am I intending to not enjoy this movie,
Right.
which is basically a reboot.
Right.
I mean, they're calling it a sequel. Sure, it's like decade. This is probably the longest there's ever been between a movie and its sequel. So let's just call it a reboot. You know,
Yeah.
because basically they are sort of. I mean, you can tell from the trailer they're sort of remaking it. They're sort of remaking similar plot beats.
Yep.
And I'll just say, okay, that's fine. That's what we're doing, and I'm going to see if it's fun.
But the thing, like, the cast excites me. And I'm not talking about the old characters. Like, these actors they brought in for these new guys excite me. Like, I think John Boyega is great. I don't know if you guys have seen Attack the Block, which was his big movie before this. That's a really great space aliens movie. It's awesome. You need to see it.
have not.
Oscar Isaac is great. Who's the Daisy Ridley? I mean, she's never really been anything, but she looks really exciting. There's like this. She's the main character of this film. Like the fact that there's a girl main character of Star Wars is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, they correctly got Andy Serkis to play the villain, so
Yeah.
or the main villain. So,
Yeah.
Right.
So that's gonna be. I mean, there's pretty much no way I'm not gonna like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, and Adam Driver looks great as the evil. I don't know if I guess he's technically a Sith. Whatever. He's the bad guy in the mask. It's not Luke Skywalker. People stop being stupid. But
Wouldn't that be hilarious if it was Luke?
Luke weighs like
shit.
100
Yeah,
pounds more
it
than
doesn't look like him. It hasn't looked like him once. Like not even once has it looked like him. I don't know why.
And then
Like
there's people that are like, oh, well, what if he like used the Force to make himself look skinnier? It's like, you're the stupidest person in the world.
Luke grew his hair out and dyed it all black, even though he's old. And it's like 50 pounds.
I think the cool thing, and I hope they do this. From everything I've read about Kylo Ren's character, he's like a guy obsessed with like Vader, and like he collects legacy memorabilia from the first trilogy. I really hope he's like a meta commentary on Star Wars fandom. I think that would be amazing. Like, I would love that, and I hope they do it.
I want him to be weird. I want him to be kind of jacked up, like just kind of like. I want him to say something. I mean, just be like, "What?" You know, just kind of like just something that out of left field, but
He's talking
still
to
have
a melted Vader helmet in the trailer, so
right. Exactly.
he might be pretty weird.
I want a lot of that. I want him to like be in his own little mind, his own world or whatever, but at the same time, you know, not anything like, you know, obviously it's not going to like, it's serious, right? So it's not going to be like way like comedy style, but you know, give me something unique, like shape a character for me or something. Give me a new villain that I can actually, I don't even care if he is a villain or not, like whatever, maybe he ends up not being a complete villain, but you know, give me something that'll like make me want to see more of it.
yeah, sure. I mean, like the Darth Vader breathing, we've lived with that our entire lives, but there's no reason why that could have just as easily come off as super cheesy if it were not, you know, Darth Vader, right?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's part of the package where it's like ominous, but what am I trying to say? I guess like just give us a good villain design where it actually feels like something.
Well, and I love the idea, and I don't know if this is true, this is just what I've heard, but I love the idea that he's wearing that mask just because Vader wore a mask, so he like constructed a mask for himself because he's just obsessed with him. Like that's such a cool idea.
I like that.
In universe and out in real world too, because there are people that like Darth Vader is one of the most recognizable villains, and people dress like him all the time. Like it's really interesting to me. So hopefully they go somewhere with that. The thing I'm really excited about is, did you guys see Looper?
Yeah.
Yep.
Rian Johnson, the director and writer of Looper, is who's doing episode 8. And that's really exciting to me.
Ooh. Okay.
He's a very smart director. He's a really smart writer. That's really awesome.
Good. We need more of those people in this, in this line of business.
Yeah.
Because dear God.
I read that the guy who I'm missing details here, but one of the guys who co-wrote the original series is a co-writer on this episode 7.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Let me look this up while you guys talk amongst yourselves.
Do you know who's directing episode 9?
No.
Is it Kazdan?
No,
Lawrence Kasdan?
It's a... Wait, who?
Oh no, I was talking about. I was referring to Matt.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes, it is Lawrence Kasdan.
Because I know he's I don't know. I always remember it because his last name. I always remember it, but I know he's one of the co-writers on Empire.
He's listed as number 1 writer on Force Awakens, and yeah, I think he helped write the other movies. So
that's good news. I didn't know that. Yeah. That's really cool. Colin Trevorrow, writer and director of Jurassic World, is doing episode 9.
Oh,
so
no.
That takes your expectations and just smashes them back into the ground.
Yeah, but these movies can't all be. They can't all. What's the word? The regression to the mean, right? Like some of them are going to just be disappointing.
Right.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter that there's no reason to look at it as a whole nother trilogy, right? At this point.
Well, they're treating it as such.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're treating it as a trilogy and then doing all these other spin-off movies at the same time. Like I feel like it's just going to be like a new Marvel Universe type of thing.
That's exactly what they want. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some that are obviously not that.
I mean, but the ones I just listed, the directors and writers, were for their main trilogy. That was 7, 8, and 9. But yeah, their plan is every other year they'll have main series, and in the in-between years they'll have the one-offs, which I'm almost more excited about those. The Rogue One movie that I think is next year, that looks interesting. I mean, like, that's an interesting idea, and I would love to see a movie in the Star Wars universe that doesn't have any frickin' Jedi in it. Like, we've had so much Jedi stuff that it would be an interesting angle to be in universe without that.
Or make it just like a secondary, like a background type of character, like not really use them a whole lot.
Yeah.
I guess that's maybe impossible for a Jedi, but yeah, I don't have to do that.
Yeah. Star Wars is fantasy, not science fiction.
Right.
Jedi are wizards. There's no reason that every story has to have a wizard.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Do y'all think Rey is going to end up being the actual person that's supposed to be the Jedi, I guess, or the new Finn?
I don't know.
I
kind of think yes.
People think like her like holding the whole like staff thing is like an indication, or they said I forgot where I read this, but yeah, I was like she's actually like Luke's daughter. I don't know. I think is she Han and Leia's daughter, or is she Luke's daughter? But if she's Luke's daughter, right? Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I've read some pretty good or not read actually. It was a Red Letter Media video, but I think it convinced me that certain things are going to be certain ways, and I kind of wish I hadn't seen it now because if they're right about these things, then I'm not going to be surprised.
Right.
But
because they are good.
Mean, I'm not going to be surprised, but they're also kind of neat things that they were talking about. So,
and I hope I want to see Han. You know, like I want to see him. Even though he's old, I hope that I still see those. You know,
You'll see a lot of
Han-isms.
them in this movie,
Yeah.
from what I understand.
Okay.
I think he's playing the Obi-Wan surrogate, the wise old man that helps out. If this movie's following the same archetypal thing as the first one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we've gone super over.
Oh no.
I'm fine with that because there was a lot to talk about here. That's an entire universe that we all love. So, but I think we should go ahead and wrap this thing up because this has officially become our longest podcast. So I think the next week is our Christmas episode. So we will be bringing our favorite Christmas movies and we'll be doing some talking about that. Also, right now on our website, we have our 12 Days of Christmas Movies event going on where we're posting a different write-up on a different Christmas movie each day. Those are going really well. Matt, you've written one already. Gentry, yours is coming up in a day or so. Well, it might already be out by the time people are listening to this, but that's gonna go.
Right.
That's gonna go all the way up till the 24th. So up until Christmas, we're gonna be doing that. So stop by for that. Matt, also you'll be starting your ambitious Elon Musk project next year, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've already reviewed one of the movies, or one of the books that ended up being on that list, and I've read several of the others. So I'll be making my way through those.
So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe, and a lot more plans. Also, we got our top 10 stuff coming up. Matt, is yours going to be Tangled 10 times?
Probably. I mean, I've probably seen Tangled in a bunch of documentaries this year. That's probably my.
What is this, like top 10 films of the year?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be interesting for each of us to do a list. Even you, Matt, with your limited amount of viewing, I think yours would be interesting. It would be very different from what most of the critic lists out there are. So maybe we'll talk about doing that. But in the meantime, where can we find you on the internet, James Gentry?
You guys can find me at my super cool Twitter handle at WenchTweet, WenchTweet, or EET, and Facebook. Just follow Daily Planet Films.
Yeah, do that. Everyone
do that.
Follow that.
Do that. Do not follow me. No, but that's pretty much it, though. So I'll try to work on getting a little bit more social media. But yeah, that's
Matt?
a lot. Thanks again for having me, guys.
Yeah, Matt, Twitter me.
My Twitter handle is an unpronounceable series of letters, which is contained in the show notes.
Perfect. My Twitter handle is at ScottDaly85. That's DALY. Our website Twitter is also at Daily Planet Films, and all of our writing will be at www.dailyplanetfilms.com. Get ready for the Christmas episode next week. And if everyone's going to see Star Wars this weekend, have fun. And we will talk about that as soon as we've all seen it. So see you next week.